I'm David Hume. I'm from a wee place called Ballycarry, which is a very historic village. It had the first Presbyterian minister and congregation in Ireland. It was the birthplace of the Ulster Scots poet James Orr and the wartime general Sir James Stuart Steele. But part of its history is running along beside me here, and it's the Muttonburn stream. A very famous song was written about this stream, and it featured in a film in 1936. It was written by my grandfather, William James Hume, who I never knew because he died in 1948. But I've grown up with his songs and his poetry and his writings, and I want to explore the story of the man who fell into the Muttonburn stream, because that's what he says happened in his very last verse. He says that they had good parties that lived around the stream, and coming home in the morning time, all gay and serene, I slipped and I fell into the Muttonburn stream. So whether that happened or not, we don't really know, but we do know some of the history attached to the stream.
I hae mine o' my young days, for young I hae been. I hae mine o' my young days by the Muttonburn stream. It's now marked on the world's map, nae place to be seen, than we river in Ulster, the Muttonburn stream.
William Hume was born in the 1870s. He was part of a family that had originated, as far as we understand, in Ballybowly, near Ballynear, which is quite interesting because it ended up that his wife was from Ballybowly and she was born there, but he was born in Ballycarry. In 1894, his father, James Hume, bought this farm to be called Munterloney Farm, and the family moved from Hillhead into this landscape. So this was a landscape that was very familiar then to William Hume. It was quite an inspirational landscape. You know, all around us here we can see considerable distances. You can see where the Ballycarry on one side, as far as the County Down hills, Scrabo and Newtonards, Bangor, and then Island Magee. Across to Scotland on a very good day you can see Galloway, and as far as the Paps of Teare and Eales of Craig, and Teare as well. So I always think it was quite an inspirational landscape for somebody who was very much into song and poetry. To be in the midst of this landscape was quite something.
Yes, I live on a spot that won't take the dry rot, a place you could not plough wi' a pony. It can grow beans and wheat, and it sticks to your feet, the soil about fair Munterloney, with a view of the sea, broad island, Island Magee, County Down, and all looks sae bonny. And in the summertime it's divine you will find to live up at fair Munterloney. Well, the road in is bad, it would near put you mad, but it could be made good sure as only, laid with stones rolled with tar to suit any motor car going up into fair Munterloney, with the view of the sea, broad island, Island Magee, County Down, and all looks sae bonny. And in the summertime it's divine you will find to live up at fair Munterloney.
It wasn't that large a farm really, it was a 30-acre farm, which was about the average in County Antrim at that time, but it was a big move from Hillhead, where the family lived, to come out here into the countryside. And he wrote some of his poems about this landscape, this farm landscape here. He wrote Isle Munterloney and the Bonny Heights of Munterloney, two tunes and a song about this farm. And he also wrote about other areas nearby as well, and his poetry is a really good social record. He's not the Seamus Heaney. It's not the most fantastic of poetry perhaps, but it is still a great social record of the time and of the era in which he lived. And we know in 1894 when they came up here there was a tradition, an Ulster tradition called complementary ploughing. So if someone bought a farm, their neighbours and friends would come and plough it for them. So there's an account from the Larne Times Weekly Telegraph, February 24th, 1894. It says complementary ploughing at Ballycarry. As a mark of esteem, a number of the friends of Mr. James Hume, Hillhead, Ballycarry, turned out with their ploughs on Tuesday 20th inst to assist him with his ploughing on a large farm which he has purchased at Alfrack. The following gentlemen supplied teams: Messrs. William Caldwell, William Arthurs, John Dick, John McCausland, Robert Hunter, Robert Hanna, James White, William Craig, Samuel Barry, Robert Hamilton, Edward Sturdy, Andrew Miller, William McKee and William McGowan. The weather was favourable and a large extent of land was turned over. All were hospitably entertained by Mr. and Mrs. Hume. So we get a sense of the connections there in terms of who was involved with it, these families that were involved. Some of them would have been neighbours, others would have been friends, and some of those names very familiar in Ballycarry at that particular time.
And in the summertime it's divine you will find to live up at Fairmont or Lonely.
So we've travelled to Ballyboley in County Antrim outside Ballynewer because part of the William Hume story relates to this property, the Craig farm, because this is where his wife Agnes was born. And he might never have met Agnes had she not come back from Argentina. She lived there a number of years and then came back and ended up in Ballycarry. So she starts off in Ballyboley, she goes to Buenos Aires and she comes back to Ballycarry effectively. And I've got this old photograph which I think is certainly taken here. You can see the house has changed quite a bit, but the old sheds are more or less the same, and I'm not sure who this is in the photograph. But this is part of William Hume's story. Tell me about the Craigs.
Well, certainly this is the house that William John inherited from his father Alexander Craig in 1875. He got married to Isobell Houston that same year, and over the next 8 years then they had 5 surviving children. Ellen was born in 1875, Thomas, Alexander, Agnes, about whom we're talking, and 2 Sarah Janes. One was born and died within 3 months with whooping cough. William John was obviously a man of means, because when he died, just 8 years into the marriage, he left a very, very detailed will. In 1899, then just after they'd received their money, I mean the girls got £30 or something like that. I think Thomas got £50. They started to travel. Ellen was first. She went to be a governess in Buenos Aires. She left here in 1899. She met and married another person who was working on the same big ranch in Buenos Aires, and I don't know whether it was because Agnes had money, Thomas had money, I really don't know. But they went out to visit her in 1902.
Yeah.
And in fact they obviously liked there. Agnes stayed there for another 7 years.
Yes, because if she had stayed in Argentina, we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Yeah, indeed.
Certainly not in English, anyway.
No. And I don't know whether she just felt homesick, but in 1909, the family, that's Ellen and John Lacey Clark, her husband, and their 3 children, came back. They sailed all the way from the River Plate back into London, and Agnes was with them. And so they brought Agnes over here.
And then at some point, Agnes meets up with William Hume. I mean, the tradition is that the Houstons, who were close to being neighbours of the Humes in Ballycarry, were connected, of course, to the Houstons here.
Yes.
So that Agnes may well have been at the Houston farm, and that's how she met him.
Well, that is probably true. We used to think that Agnes died tragically very young. She was actually about 45 when she died, but in reality, she was the longest surviving Craig.
Yeah.
Because Sarah Jane died in her 30s, Thomas, I think he was coming home to see his ailing mother, and while he was on the boat, she died. He joined up, and he was actually killed at the Battle of the Somme, and we visited his grave. And obviously Alexander Robert had died, and Agnes was the sole remaining one, and that's where you come into this story.
Yes, absolutely. But it's such a poignant and tragic story of a family.
Oh, it
Isn't it really?
For a family from this house here in Ballyboley, all to have crossed the Atlantic in the very early 1900s. And that, I think, was because they had inherited well.
Richard, thank you very much for meeting us here at this farm yard. It's amazing to see this photograph that was taken so long ago, and here we are in modern times here. Isobell, you're granddaughter of William James Hume. This is quite a nice wee piece here. It's the handwritten version of Monterone.
Yes.
Words and music by W.J. Hume Alfrack, music arranged by S.E. Hay, Drumgart. Hasn't a dedication on this. I'm not sure whether it was dedicated at some point, but it was to be sold for a shilling.
Yes.
And he usually sold them to raise funds for different organisations and so on.
Right,
But this is 1944, and it's a lovely piece inside. There's very neat writing again inside too.
And his music, yes. And all those lines would have been done with a ruler and ink. Would have been ink, wouldn't it? Well, what I remember hearing was that two things. A cousin of mine who used to visit, he lived more locally, and he would have visited his granda, not like us in Belfast. And when he visited his granda would have given him a page and a ruler and a pen or pencil, and made him sit and rule lines all afternoon.
Oh dear.
Rule lines so that he would be able to do his music on those lines. So this, to me, I'm wondering if this is one of those sheets that he got his grandson to do that. My mother always told me about him when he loved to be out ploughing, but when he was out ploughing, he had something attached to the front of the plough that supported a page.
Right, okay.
A lined page.
Yes.
So when he was ploughing, he was thinking, he was composing, and he was also jotting down the tunes that came into his head as he ploughed the
wow.
I don't know whether it was straight the plough. I would wonder now if you were trying to do that, but that's what he did, and she remembered him doing that, having this sheet of music at the plough.
Yeah, wow. Your mum, even when she was 100, she was able to recite some of this poetry?
Oh, she talked a lot about her father. Now, she did talk a lot about him, and she, I think, admired his, his poems and the songs. And she said, he would take down the fiddle from the wall and he would play music to us at night. And music was his love, and yet she didn't inherit any of that at all. None of us did. But she admired his, ability to make these poems, and
Yeah.
she quoted a lot of them.
Can you remember any of the ones that she quoted?
Her favourite one, I think, was, yes, I live on a spot that won't take the dry rot, a place you couldn't plough with a pony. It grew beans and wheat and stuck to your feet, the soil at Old Monterone.
And that was the family farm?
That was a family farm. And there's more verses, I just can't remember them all, but that was her forever reciting that, and she did it right up, as I said, till she was over 100. It never left her. The words of his songs and poems never left her. Other things gone years and years before.
Amazing, yeah.
It is amazing how that stuck.
And the Muttonburn stream, did it stick too?
Oh, the Muttonburn stream definitely stuck. Oh yes, the Muttonburn stream, yeah. I think that was the favourite of all, of course, and the most well-known one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she would have recited that and recited that.
So here we are in the middle of Ballycarry, Billy, and this is a very
Indeed.
different village than it would have been in the 20s and 30s. But there was, I mean, that particular time you had like a number of poets and entertainers and so
Aye.
forth, William Hume, William Caldwell and so on. Different now, when you have TV and all of that, it all sort of changed. But do you think you inherited some of those entertainment genes?
Well, I was always told I had, because my mother used to paddle me out to do Mrs. Mulligan at the bookies and things like that, and sing the Muttonburn stream at Women's Institute gatherings.
Yeah,
She would have
yeah.
smuggled me out of the house in normal clothes when I was about, I was only 9 or 10 or something, and then I was dressed up in this.
So the
No.
Muttonburn stream was a big success then in terms of the circuit, was it?
I got to sing it quite a bit, although I wasn't that keen on it at
Yeah.
that age, because
Yeah.
I remember when I reached sort of 12, 13 and the Beatles were on the go, and
Okay.
my mother sat and watched on the black and white TV one night the Beatles. I said, "This is the Beatles." And they were singing, "She loves you, yeah, yeah, yeah." And I said, "Well, what do you think?" "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I said, "How dare you? It's better than the Muttonburn stream." And then I had to go at rewriting the Muttonburn stream, but
Okay.
I never. I learned a bit of. I tried to learn a bit of sense later on. So.
When you look back and see there's adverts and all the rest for William Hume, he was doing this, he wasn't doing hypnotism, but he was definitely doing like stand-up and routines, and some of it was in costume and all this. So, I mean, he was quite a character in his time.
I must have been, because a book called The History of Ballycarry, you would know who it's.
Abbey Dowling, yes.
Abbey Dowling. And there's an article in it by General Steele.
Yes, yeah.
And as part of the article, he had been asked, you know, what he remembered from being a boy. And he said he remembered Willie Hume. He had been at concerts at
Yeah,
Willie,
yeah.
and he said he remembered him ligging about the stage.
Yeah.
And like, ligging about the stage would be a good way to describe what I was doing. you know.
But it's not just ligging about the stage though, sure it's not. I mean, it has to be prepared, it has to be thought out and all of those things.
To make it look so
Yeah.
dreadful, you have to put a lot of work into it.
Though what about the music then? That always intrigues me, and I'm always intrigued because I can't read music at all. So I wonder, how did he come to be able to do all that and to write musical scores? I know he had help from other people like Susie Hay and Norman Hawkins and people like that, but how did that happen for him? I wonder.
I can't figure that out, because my knowledge of music is very the notation for that. I really don't.
Yeah.
And I mean, I never actually got to meet him, because he was 1948. he died.
1948, yeah.
But I'd always, I mean, I just got it told to me a lot about that I was the grand. I mean, I'm called after him. I'm
yeah.
William Hume Teare,
Yes.
and so I thought somehow I'm carrying this. But my father was never very keen on it. He said, "Oh, you'll do a day's proper work. You're not going to do any of that nonsense." So that's why whenever my mother wanted me to perform for some group in the village, some ladies group, I would be smuggled out the door. But I don't know how he came to be able to write the tunes
Yeah.
the way he did.
And he wrote quite a lot of them. So he did.
You said there were more.
There's a lot more, yeah. There's
Yeah.
just an amazing number of tunes. We're going to hopefully hear one from you now called Hume's Hornpipe, which
Aye.
is one of the tunes that he wrote. And it was just a little scrap of paper. It survived in a wee scrap of paper.
I remember you giving me that, and I sort of, it looked like it looked for all the world like a hen had dipped its feet in ink and walked over the page.
All right, well, we'll hear Hume's Hornpipe.
Aye, I'll give it a wee blast.
That's a jaunty wee tune, all right, isn't it?
Aye.
Hi, Marian.
Hi, David.
I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got to tell me. If there's anything in the museum archives here in Larne Museum in relation to William Hume and his works.
Well, I did have a look through the archives, and we do have two pieces. They're both pieces of sheet music. One is Sweet Island McGee, with words by Crawford J. Jenkins, with music arranged by William Hume.
Yeah.
And we've also got Charming Sweet Gleno, with words and music by W.J. Hume. Unfortunately, these are the only two pieces we have on the collection,
okay.
but it's the basis for some research and investigation.
Yeah, well, there's certainly plenty more, because we have lots of the printed material like that that would have been produced in the 30s and 40s, probably most of it, and then some handwritten stuff as well too. He did cooperate, these poets cooperated with each other, so Crawford Jenkins you mentioned, and he was another poet from Lockstown area who would have worked with them. And then this is one, for example, called The Little Isle of Green, with words by William Caldwell and the tune by William Hume. So they all sort of work together, and sometimes they bounced off each other in terms of poetry. One would write a poem, and then another would write a poem that was similar, but a response to that other, earlier poem type thing. So
great to have all those local names connected to each other as well.
Oh yes, absolutely. I mean, it's astonishing that there were so many poets in the one area. At that particular time, there was those
Fantastic.
different Jenkins and Caldwell, Hume, and then there was Tommy Bryan's later time as well too in that same area, and of course James Orr, the predominant one at the start. And there's sort of place names mentioned. The Loch and Lea, I like it that he uses these old names. A lot of people maybe wouldn't know where they are nowadays.
That's true.
Loch and Lea is outside Ballycarry, and he says that, near Ballycarry town, if the coach road you take and go up Old Walls Lonan, you might find a wee lake.
Yeah.
And the coach road is the original road from Larne to Carrickfergus to Belfast.
Yes, there are some stories about that road as well.
So he was very aware of all that history, I think, too, about the whole area around him.
Is that handwritten by?
That is handwritten, yeah, and it's words. There is music, but the music's not as. We do have the music on another separate piece, but not on this one. But words and music with W.J. Hume, and it's copyright 1938.
It's beautiful, neat writing on it.
It's really neat writing. I'm not sure that I'm connected to him at all. I certainly don't write like that. And there was another Fair Macramore in there. So there are tunes mentioned as well. Sometimes Lee Rigg, which must have been a possibly common fiddle tune or something from the time.
Okay,
maybe,
it's not something I'm familiar with.
Aye, but that was written in 1940 and dedicated to Reverend Docherty in Macramore Presbyterian Church. He'd have been very well known. The proceeds in aid of the Soldiers' Comfort Fund. And printed by Ernest Cuthbert, who was in Pound Street here in Larne, not so far away from where we are with the museum. But I like it. He talks about the townlands. There he mentions Ballyvern's town, Ballyhone, Ballypollard, Drumnadrea, Craiganee, Newlands, Blackhill, Carnduff, Ballyless, and Beltoy. All of them.
All those names that are familiar to local people.
It's really, really good. And then the Pretty Maid of Sweet Rungill. Now, Rungill is a little place up near Gleno. Which is probably all but forgotten about now. But it's Rungill Vale, a delightful vale in East Antrim with the village of Gleno at the foot. A river flows down the valley, draining Loch Dew and emptying into the Glen River. He wrote the music, and Crawford Jenkins, it appears, wrote the words for this one too. So, and that would have been a landscape they'd have been both very familiar with, but Jenkins was closer to it. So it probably, very few people would know where it was today, because the name is all but sort of gone. And then he writes about a few people. I'm not sure who the Pretty Maid of Sweet Rungill was. I don't think she gets mentioned by name here, but he does have one Lochmore Jean. So she obviously was a real person at the time too, and it's a wee romantic poem and song for Lochmore Jean. So
and I see it says dedicated to Jean
yes,
as well.
Yes,
on that.
Absolutely. So maybe I'd fancy a Jean. Who's to say? 1946.
It's great having all those documents as part of your family history.
Yeah, it is, and it's a social history. It's a mention of those place names. It's a lot of the things that he mentions in the poems. It's been kept over the years. Most of the poems and songs, probably, I don't know. There might be a few that haven't been gathered up.
I see you have a photograph there as well.
I have a photograph here too, with very few photographs of him. But this is a photograph. There's a ploughing competition certificate that he won in 1911. And this is a photograph of him, which I presume was probably taken at that time, I would imagine, because photographs were not, at that time, not taken very regularly, were they? So probably this is it, and this is Lily and Molly's 2 horses. And the plough, now we can't see in this, but the tradition is that he had an attachment made to the plough so that he could have new paper with him and write new ideas as they came into his head for poems and songs as he ploughed.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, so it's nice to have. But I say we don't have very many of them, but this is a really nice one. So I'm at the Ulster Scots Centre here in Belfast. Lots of interesting displays about people who became very, very prominent and very famous in different parts of the world, including in America here, where songwriters and music makers is featured in this particular panel. William Hume wasn't in the same league as these people in the panel behind me, but he provided a great social history in terms of the material that he produced. And a couple of them were about emigration, because emigration was always important. It was always a fixture in many communities from the 18th century right through. In terms of America, almost 250,000 people probably went to America from this part of the world. And then in the 19th century, lots went to Canada. They went to Australia, to New Zealand, South Africa, South America, and other places too. And a couple of those people who went across to different parts of the world are featured in some of the collection of material that he produced. One was a man called James Barry from Ballyedward in Machramorn. And in 1921, James Barry and his wife Sarah and their family all set sail. They went down to Larne, sailed across to Stranraer, got the train to Southampton and headed off to Melbourne in Australia, and ended up settled in Victoria. And they became very good farmers. They ended up with hundreds of acres of land, but they had a difficult time at the start, as many people did when they were pioneers. But James Barry's farewell was obviously written for some sort of a soiree or a farewell party perhaps. And he talks about James going away and the family leaving. The chorus is really good, I think, because it says, "Farewell to the green fields of Erin, farewell to the land I was born, farewell to Old Wasach, Ballyedward, and the kind friends of dear Machramorn." And he never came back to Machramorn himself, but a lot of his family did come back. A lot of the children and grandchildren came to visit where James Barry had lived and farmed. So James Barry's farewell talks about the reason for going across to Australia. He says the climate is fine, so it's certainly probably a different climate than what they were used to. It's to give his family a start on life's boat, he says in part of the song. So it's a really interesting social commentary, effectively from 1921. And then 1925, another neighbour, a man called James Hamilton, he left and he went in the opposite direction. He went to the United States, went to California. So there was another little handwritten piece here, James Hamilton's farewell, 1st of January 1925. And it says, "James Hamilton is going to go to California, oh dear oh, leaving many friends but not one foe. The band will miss him sorely." And he was a member of the Machramorn Brass and Reed Band. And he goes on about how he played a horn, he played it grand, a telling part in a brass reed band. It will be hard to train up anyone to play his horn so fairly. Dear me, he's going to leave his to kick Old Fortune's slippery ball. Away across in America, he'll kick it hard and squarely. And then he says, someday perhaps he'll return again, and should it blow or should it rain, we'll go and meet him at the train and play him home right merrily. Up to Mossach lands, his boyhood home, before he crossed the roaring foam. With his fortune made, he'll no more roam from us who loves him dearly. Again he'll play with us the band, and tell us yarns of that far-off land, and how he longed for home and a brass reed band twixt Larne and Ballycarry. Unfortunately, James Hamilton never did come back from America, but it was the wish that was there in the poem and the song that would be the case. A lot of William Hume's work was about the landscape around him, and one of the features was close to his home here at the Burnside. This is the old Burnside burn that I'm standing over, and he wrote a poem or a song about the burn before he wrote the Muttonburn stream. So this was probably the prototype for his work on the Muttonburn stream, and some of it is quite similar. The Owl Burnside Burn. There's a bonny wee river in Antrim 'tis found, and it comes from the boglands to Larne Loch flows down. As it passes by green fields it twists and it turns, and it's known by the name of the Owl Burnside Burn. And there's other verses too, and it's very similar to the themes of the Muttonburn stream. So I think this might have been a prototype for his work on the Muttonburn stream and the themes that were in his mind when he sat down and listened to the stream and looked at the landscape around him. And beautiful landscapes around them when you take time to actually just sit down and look at them.
There's a bonny wee river in Antrim it's found, and it comes from the boglands to Larne Loch flows down. As it passes by green fields it twists and it turns, and it's known by the name of the Owl Burnside Burn, the Owl Burnside Burn, the Owl Burnside Burn, and it's known by the name of the Owl Burnside Burn. Some folks gets a living from its boglands above. They gather the heather and binds into scrubs, and sells to the farm folks to clean peels and churns. All the daughters use scrubbers round the Owl Burnside Burn, the Owl Burnside Burn, the Owl Burnside Burn. All the daughters have lovers round the Owl Burnside Burn. The folks of the Burnside.
This may not look like it, but this was a main social thoroughfare and a hub in bygone times, in the 1920s and 1930s. This area was where people would come to socialise at night after they'd finished their work on the farms and so on. They'd all just gather in this area. It's called the Owl Was because of these very old limestone walls that are here. Nobody can really date how far back they go, but they were obviously placed perhaps because of the estate here. We're close to the Red Hall estate, and there was a road that went right down from here to Larne Loch before the main shore road, so it's just close to the old coach road from Belfast to Carrick. And it's also the convergence of 4 of the townlands here, so quite a rural area where we draw people in from lots of different places. And it's one of the places that William Hume wrote about because he was close at hand here. He was about less than half a mile away from this site, and in the evenings this is where all the neighbours would meet up. And he wrote about it in 1932 in a poem called The Owl Was. And I remember an elderly relative, Mary Smith, reciting to me her memory from the chorus, because the chorus is something that's quite easily remembered. But he talked about it in the context of once work was finished, what did you do then? So there's no television, no radio, nothing like that. And he said, in the evening when my work is done at Alfrac's towering brae, I take a walk up the Owl Burnside and land at the Owl Was to hear the news and have a laugh, for the jokes could not be bait. I'll tell you their names all in a train of the merry boys I meet. Then he says Archibald Burns, Henry Burns, Nelson from Lochinleigh, James McCausland from the Moss, David Craig from Lady Bray, William John Craig and Tom Gardner, an odd straggler, and that's all. And all that happens in the world is talked at the Owl Was. So it gives you a really great social picture of life back in the 1920s and 30s, when all the news was when you came to places like this and you got it from different people. And he talked about all the news there was, all the news in the world, but also all the local news from the countryside around.
In the evening when my work is done at Old Fractoring Broad, I take a walk up the Owl Burnside and land at the Owl Was to hear the news and have a laugh, for the jokes could not be bet. I'll tell you all their names in a train of the merry boys I met. Archibald Burns, Henry Burns, and Nelson from Lochinleigh, James McCausland from the Moss, David Craig from the Lady Bray, William John Craig and Tom Gardner, broached is the weather, which is never right, you know. Whiles makes the land like porridge, whiles his heart is iron. The clerk is so unsteady, he take no advice of all. He would do things right if he'd take advice from the boys of the Isle Walls. Archival Burns, Henry Burns, and Nelson from Lochinlay, James McCausland from the Moss, David Craig from the Lady Bray, William John Craig and Tom Gardiner, an old straggler that's all. And all that happens in the world is talked at the Isle Walls.
So I've known Valerie Beattie for years, and Valerie grew up at Bella Hill, just beside the Muttonburn stream, and it meant a lot to her as a child growing up. So I'm going to have a wee chat with her and a wee yarn about how important that stream was to the local community.
Hello, David.
Hi Valerie, how are you? How's things?
Grand.
Good.
Good to see you. I'm seeing you
Nice
for
to
a
see
while.
you too,
Come
yes.
in.
This is
Get
lovely,
yourself-
yeah.
Get yourself in there.
Thank you.
Put your feet up. Sit down.
Valerie, this is a very cosy wee corner. You have us in here, lovely fire. You've got a gramophone over here too. It's a lovely old space. I see there's a wee record over at the gramophone there, which is the Muttonburn stream.
Yeah, there's a wee story
It's rare,
there.
that record is rare, isn't it?
It's rare, very rare. That's the Muttonburn stream. And there's a wee story behind why I've got that record, David. I've had it for good a wee while now. I used to be doing the auctions. I love going to auctions. And I went into the Glenarm auction one night, about 30 years ago, David, and the Muttonburn stream was playing.
Right.
And I thought, that's lovely. I must see if I can buy that record, knowing that I know about the Muttonburn stream and all
Yeah.
my memories of it. But the auctioneer said, oh no, you have to take the record player. We're not selling the record separate. And I thought about it anyway. As you can see,
got
I
it?
come out with the
Yeah.
record player and the record. For,
Yeah.
I think I paid 36 quid for it then, David.
Well, that was probably quite a bargain.
It was.
say,
I love
yeah.
it, love it.
It's a very rare thing to find nowadays. for
Yeah,
sure.
well, Muttonburn's, it's a big thing in my life and my memories.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk to you about your memories of the stream, but first of all, I wondered, do you have any idea when would be the first time you would have heard that song?
In the early days, there were a lot of socials and church socials and community socials. And I think the first time I heard it was only a child, really. I probably was about 6 or 7, and taken along to the socials with my mother. And I'm trying to think who sang it. I know Matt Mahard was a great one for stuff like that. And there was a lot of people got up and sang it. And I remember the Muttonburn Stream, he's singing about where I enjoy playing. And it was, because I had great fun around the stream, David.
Yeah. How important was the stream?
Very, very. I lived very near the stream. When you walked out our path, I could look down and see the bridge over the stream. And when we were children, when we were kids, my best friend Frances, she would come down the big long lane called the Cassie, and we would meet and we would have our jam jars, and we would go down to the Muttonburn stream and trying to get these wee spricks, I think you called them,
yes.
spricks, and hook them into the jam jar. I can remember one day in particular, we were leaning right way over to get the spricks, and I fell in, and she tried to grab me, and she fell in. And we were soaked to the skin and thought, what is our mother's going to say? The wee ankle socks. And I remember we took off the socks and cardigan and beat them on the stones and hung around till we got them almost dry before we went home. I really enjoyed the days. Later on, as growing up, it was a place where you met, sort of, we'll see you the night at the bridge, see you the night. Many a wee romance started at the bridge, David. I'm saying no more to that now. But many a wee romance started at the bridge, meeting down there and having a bit of a yarn. It was just a place where the young ones met. I think there's a photograph somewhere of me in my school bag, and at the Muttonburn stream, and there was ducks and swans and all sorts in my
Oh, yeah,
memory.
I happen to have a copy of that.
Have you got that photograph,
I do
Dave? I
have.
thought you might have it.
Yeah, so there's a swan, and there's a couple of ducks further back, and there's a swan in the water, and there's yourself with your
That's it, school uniform on.
and a Mr. Adamson that just
Yes,
on the back
yes,
of it.
yes, Mr. Adamson in the background. It actually, you know, fits in with the song when you see it, the ducks swimming.
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
You know.
So yes, it was very realistic about
Wasn't
all of that. It may not have had the curative powers
No,
that he
no,
promised it would have in the
no,
song,
but it was,
certainly had the ducks and all of that.
It's really just became like Ballycarry's national anthem, really. You know, everybody knew the Muttonburn stream later on in life, you know, no matter what social you went to, no matter when. You know, if the Muttonburn wasn't being played in the background, you know, somebody got up and sang it.
Yeah.
You know, but it was a great song. Great song.
And you've been known to sing it yourself.
I have been known to give it a verse or two.
And we're going to hear any of it today.
I'll try and give you a chance.
Okay.
There's no idea what it is. I'm no singer, a bit more. I remember my young days, for younger I've been. I remember my young days by the Muttonburn stream. It's not marked on the world's map, nowhere to be seen. That wee river in Ulster, the Muttonburn stream.
Very good. All right.
Sorry, that was a bit scraky there, but not as young as you used to be.
No, that was very good. That was very good. Yes. So we're at the amphitheatre here in the Fair Hill in Ballycarry. And Ballycarry was a place very close to William Hume's heart. He wrote quite a number of poems about the village and about people in it. One of the songs that was of interest that he wrote in 1944, he wrote the music for, and his brother Hugh wrote the words for, was called Worthy Ballycarry Sons. And in that song they talk about all the people in the past, the Reverend Edward Bryce, who was the first Presbyterian minister. He talks about the Ballycarry martyr William Nelson from 1798, and he also talks about the poets. And of course James Orr, the Ulster Scots weaver poet, was the foremost of the weaver poets, and he was born in this community, so these people would have been very aware of him, particularly the poets in the community in the 20th century. And he says, poets raised up noble too, did of their country sing so well, right worthy sons, sincere and true, the bards James Orr and Will Caldwell. The bards James Orr and Will Caldwell, the bards James Orr and Will Caldwell, right worthy sons, sincere and true, the bards James Orr and Will Caldwell. And William Caldwell was the other poet in the village at that time that would have been writing, and his name was William Caldwell, or Yankee Bill as he was sometimes called, because he'd gone to America, to California, and came back to Ballycarry. So the two wrote complementary poems. Poems were written off other poems that one wrote, the other one then wrote a similar poem, and so on. And this Worthy Ballycarry Sons, I was given this note in relation to it some years ago now, and it was from a lady called Ivy Dowling, and she was the daughter of William Caldwell, and she wrote in 17th of September 1945, she sent a note to William Hume and she said, "My sister's just given me your songs which you brought me. I am so sorry I was away in town when you called. I want to thank you so much for your kindness in giving them to me. I appreciate it very much. Will you allow me to add another verse to Worthy Ballycarry Sons? To your good verses I would add another Ballycarry son, for by your songs and jokes, Willie, you have oft our praises won. So with these worthies, Willie Hume, you have your own particular place, as one whose eyes could see the beauty of his native town and place." And so I thought that's a lovely wee note from Ivy Dowling, and she was quite prominent in her own right. She wrote the history of Ballycarry in 1963, compiled the whole history of the village, and was connected, as I say, to the Caldwell family. So all of this history was very much in his mind, I think, when he was writing a lot of his poems and his songs, and it was an inspiration. And what better inspiration that you come from the place where James Orr, the most prominent of these Ulster weaver poets, once lived and worked, and that then you're following on down that line as a poet as well too.
Oh, Ballycarry of renown, thy sons rode oft on history's page.
What do you remember in relation to William James Hume?
To him, well, I have to confess, I don't really remember ever going to sort of sit on his knee as a child or any experience like that. I don't know that we even visited him very much because I was only about a 2 or 3 year old, and travel from Belfast to Ballycarry wasn't easy. So I can only really remember his funeral, if I'm truthful. And the thing I remember about that day was the crowds of people up at the house, at the bungalow, and them carrying the coffin. I suppose I remember being one of many watching this go by, and the whole down the lane, and lots of people all down the lane, crowds of people. And that's my only.
And you were, what age were you?
4.
At
I was.
about 4,
I had
yeah,
just
so
turned 4. Wasn't almost 4.
It's amazing you even remember it. You
And
know,
that's
something
still
like
the
that at
crowd
4,
picture is still clear
Yeah.
in my mind.
Yes. So this is, for me, this is always an amazing place in terms of
I haven't
local
been in
history.
here for years.
You just see so many of the people you read about, you know, way
Aye.
back in the old papers and all the rest of it. And the Hume grave plot is over here in this older section because it was probably just a transition between old and new with that new one being created. But the first person there would have been Agnes Craig.
Oh, so
William
that's
Hume.
that's
That's the
yeah.
granny who
Granny.
died in 1926, and then he died then on 4th of November 1948 was when he died. But I always think that it's quite, this is like the village of the past where everybody was neighbours and so on, and they're still all neighbours in here, you know, now. Still see all these names that are connected through that history. So this is where William Hume ended up. After quite a long and eventful life, he ended up in this wee plot of land in Temple Corran Cemetery, which is a lovely, peaceful wee place to be.
Right, well at least I know where it is now, because I always, for some reason I got it into my head it was the other side of the old church there.
Yeah, no, this is it here.
Oh, very good.
I hae mine o' my young days, for young I hae been. I hae mine o' my young days by the Muttonburn stream. It's now marked on the world's map, nae place to be seen. Thon we river in Ulster, the Muttonburn stream. It flows under stane and stick bricks, tax money's the turn. Sure it turns round the mill wheel that grinds the folks' corn, and it trickles through meadows and leaves the land clean. Belfast look, it soon reaches this Muttonburn stream.
So I hope you've enjoyed finding out about the man who wrote the Muttonburn Stream, William James Hume, and his work, his music, his poetry, his verse, and the social history that's attached to that from this community, this little Ulster community in the 1930s and 40s. And seeing that the Muttonburn Stream, the stream that he immortalised with that song, it was probably his best song, it was his best effort, and it's still sung today, so that does say something about the power of the song. So I'm going to head off now. I will try and avoid falling into the Muttonburn Stream. Wouldn't want that to happen twice to our family.
Sure the ducks like to swim in it frae morning till eve. Then they dirty the water, but they mak theirselves clean. I hae whiles seen them diving till their tails scarce was seen, waddling down in the bottom of the Muttonburn stream. Now the women all carry oft times a hissing, taking down their fine washing to the Muttonburn stream. And we puther nor sapused, how we don't max them clean. It has great cleansing power